Hello all and welcome to a brand new Parry's Pickups. Thanks very much for joining us today. So, another week, 4 more games. And what have we got first? You may ask yourself, what have we got first? So, have a guess. Okay, you've had a guess? Did you guess Tetris? Well, you were right. You may have seen this on social media if you follow us or on our Twitter page. But I recently got a copy of The Next Tetris. Now this is one of those Dreamcast games which seems to be a little bit more uncommon and therefore demands a little bit more money than most. I got this a brand new copy of this game. Of course it's not sealed anymore, it's all open because I wanted to play it, of course. £25 this one cost me, so yeah, splurged a little bit here, but was it worth it? I won't say run out and buy this game, but if you must have a version of Tetris for your Dreamcast, this is better than Tetris 4D, which was a Japanese exclusive. So yes, it's called Next Tetris. You may remember if you watch Parry's Pickups regularly, we talked about Next Tetris with PS1 a few weeks ago. Well, this is essentially the same thing, just with a different skin really. It's yeah, aesthetically it looks quite different, but in terms of what's on offer in this game, it's pretty much what you get on the Next Tetris for PlayStation 1, which is the Next Tetris, a game where the Tetris blocks are made up of individual pieces. The idea is it to make pieces, when the line's made, certain pieces can fall through if they're separate. And it's hard to explain. The footage should hopefully make it a little bit clearer, but the idea is you've got a bottom line that you have to complete in order to pass the stage. You only have a certain amount of time to do it, so you really have to act fast. It's a fun little spin on Tetris, but it is just one spin on the formula. One teaspoon on the formula. Tetris joke. The other game is just standard old Tetris. It plays a good game of Tetris, apart from the fact it might be difficult to realise where the piece is going to go. Doesn't give any on-screen representation of where your pieces are, where they end up on screen. Other than, so you have to just kind of line them up a little bit better. You've got to have a good eye for Tetris with this one, which I can't remember. It's probably the same. Probably was the same deal in the PlayStation 1 version of this game as well. So, yeah, I enjoyed playing. It plays a good game of Tetris. I enjoyed playing through original Tetris, and eventually I think I'll understand the Next Tetris a little bit better and get a bit better at it. But it's got 2 player modes. It does have a few variations on Tetris, but it's a similar sort of like score attack and marathon modes and such. It's not incredibly fully featured, but it has got a few options. So not an essential Tetris game, but the best. Oh, I was going to say the best on the Dreamcast, but you might want to go for Sega Tetris actually. I'd say that has a lot more going for it in terms of uniqueness as well. But it does do some weird things that you don't expect. If you want a standard old Tetris game, then get this one. If you want something a little bit more crazy, get Sega Tetris. But that is an import-only game, so you've got to make sure you can play it first. So that's my bit on Tetris for this episode. Not going to talk about Tetris again for the time being. We're going to move on to an import title. Another series that I'm quite into. I have been quite into for many years, and the minute back into it again. Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. This was the second version of the game to be released in Japan. The first one, which was called Dead or Alive 2. This is very similar to the game we got in Europe, which was just called Dead or Alive 2. It's quite confusing, although this is that game, but it includes a few more options. As standard, it's in English, so fine for import native English speakers, but you can always just turn on the subtitles and listen to the Japanese voices, which is preferable, as personally I was never really a fan of the English voices in our version of Dead or Alive we got in Europe. So yes, what I did was I switched everything back to Japanese, but made sure I turned on the subtitles. So you can do that. As standard, even the final boss, Tengu, if you're familiar with the game, he says a little something before the fight. I think it's something like "Everything is my delusion," and that is there in big English letters in the English version, and it's obviously it's traditional Japanese with subtitles in the Japanese version. So that's interesting that even the Japanese version included the English version as standard in this case. So from what I've heard, this is a couple more things than the European PlayStation Dead or Alive 2 game, and certainly a lot more fully featured than the very first Dead or Alive 2 that was released in Japan. So some of the things you get in this game is you get more costumes, you get more levels, you get more cutscenes, you get in terms of levels, the tag mode, or was it survival? It's either tag or survival or both, aren't played out in the same one level as they are in some other versions of Dead or Alive 2. Usually you have to play them in the danger zone level. This one seems to have lots more stages. They don't have aren't as expansive as some of the other stages in the game. They're more arena based, but there are a lot of new stages in this game if you're playing through tag team or survival. So that's also a nice feature of it. Actually, it's a very heavy box, because the manual for this game is absolutely huge and weighty, and it's only in Japanese. I mean, it's not like a European manual thing, but each character gets 2 whole pages, and if you're Japanese, I'm sure there's a lot of helpful game information in here, but it's a heavy old manual. And if you'd like a look at the disc as well, that's the disc for Dead or Alive Hardcore. So yeah, it's great. It's the best version of Dead or Alive 2 on the PS2. So if you're a Dead or Alive 2 fan, do pick it up. It's very good. Next up, we're going to talk about a sort of game we've never actually featured on Parry's Pickups before, and that is a homebrew title, or hack. It's probably a mixture of both. This is Sonic The Lost Worlds. Not Sonic The Last World like the Wii U game, but The Lost Worlds. The idea of this game was that there were levels that weren't featured in Sonic 2 that were cut from the game. These can be seen in some early screenshots of Sonic 2. So what I think has essentially happened here is the challenge was to make a game featuring those unused levels from Sonic 2. It appears to me that the developer of this game has purely gone off the screenshots that are available and isn't using any assets that weren't used in Sonic 2. I could be wrong on that, because it includes at least one asset. If you go to sound test for Sonic 2, you'll find a piece of music which wasn't used in the main game, and that's actually in here on one of the levels. The first level's called Dust Hill Zone, the second level's Rock Zone, and I think the third level is something like Forest or Jungle Zone. No, I think it's called Wood Zone. The levels have terribly unimaginative names. Unfortunately, the gameplay itself, it's Sonic, which is great, you know, everything controls as you'd expect it to do, but the level design is subpar in comparison to the other Sonic games. You will find moments where you feel that you get some unfair deaths, enemy placements a bit odd, the platforming doesn't flow in the same way as proper Sonic games do. Nonetheless though, it's admirable what the developer has done here. The graphics are okay. You can see they're not Sonic Team standard, but yeah, so I was going back to what I was saying before. It seems like they've looked at those screenshots of those levels which didn't get featured in Sonic 2 and kind of tried to recreate them themselves. And it's okay, it's not bad, but it's not the most aesthetically pleasing game. It also reuses boss battles from other Sonic games, albeit with some colour changes here and there. It's just quite an interesting game to play through. It's different spin on Sonic. You shouldn't expect a whole brand new game, but at least the level designs themselves are new, so you can get some newness out of that. So yeah, that's Sonic the Lost World. This is available online if you want a physical version like this. Of course, I'm not saying this is a legitimate copy of any game. This is a homebrew, this is a hack. And this is not an officially licensed cartridge by any means, but yeah, I always find it nice to be able to play these things on original hardware. I'm just kind of, yeah, it's not the most well put together thing either, but they are out there if you want to get your hands on one of these, or there are other means you can play this game. And lastly, I was going to say last but not least, but maybe in terms of this episode it may not be as interesting to you as perhaps some of the other games, but I'm a big fan of this genre, and that is wrestling games. Smackdown vs Raw 2009, one of the wrestling games I don't own, and I don't own many on PS3, so I thought, well, considering I've got most of my wrestling games on Xbox 360, I'd get this one on PS3. And yes, I'm collecting the various releases of the Smackdown vs Raw series, and also when it developed into the yearly numbered series, the 2K series, shall I say. So this is a good one. I like it. I mean, at this point, Smackdown vs Raw was still reasonably accessible. It's got some cool new features in there. Things slightly twists and on the original Smackdown formula. Yeah, it's not too much to say about it. Core gameplay you'd probably be familiar with, but say this yearly update, there are a few changes here and there, but it certainly plays a good wrestling game and looks fine as well for an early PlayStation 3 game. It's also available on PS2, I think, and so this was during the transition from PS2 to PS3, and I must say it's particularly impressive if you consider that. So yeah, fun wrestling game, very affordable. I think it cost £1, 50p to £1, so you could do far worse than pick this one up. So yep, that's it, this episode of Parry's Pickups. Thanks very much for joining us today, checking out the video. You can follow us on all the social medias, keep up to date with everything we're doing on Blast Processors. There has been a lot lately, as I can testify to, so do check out our other videos. Do like the videos if you like them, like this video, or dislike it if you don't like it. It's entirely up to you. You can subscribe to the channel if you like the kind of things we do, and I say we do release quite a lot of videos quite regularly, so it's worth sticking around for. So thanks again for watching, and until we see you next time for another Parry's Pickups, it's bye for now and game on.